morning. Most of you know me. I'm Cheryl Dawson-Spaulding. I'm the Recorder of Deeds, and today we're going to talk about one of my least favorite subjects, but most talked about these days, is property fraud. So we're going to discuss what the role of the recorder is, what deed fraud is, who's at risk, how you can try to prevent it and mitigate the damages. So first of all, the recorder records anything pertaining to the property, the real land. So property transfers, you take out a loan against your property, plat surveys, all of the wonderful things that have to do with your land in Greene County. We are set out by statute what we can and cannot do. And what we can do is verify that it's an original document, that there are a grantor, grantee listed, that there is a legal description which appears to be in Greene County, that it has been signed, and that it's notarized, and that it's an original document with wet signatures, or if it's done electronically, that it's stated in there that it is done so, and they can do it that way. What we cannot do is verify the legality of your document. So we don't go and verify that you, John Smith, that are signing this document, own this property. We're relying heavily on the notary to determine that John Smith is actually who showed up to sign it. And so when they come in and say, well, just freeze my property, don't let anybody record anything against my property, we don't have the authority to do that. If you present a valid document that meets all the statutory requirements, I have to, by law, record that document. So we record plats and surveys, which are drawings of your property. They define the boundaries. They create a legal description, which is then used on the document, which transfers the property. And for an example, I put the plat of Springfield, which is platted in 1867. So conveyance documents, there's a lot of them. So this is what transfers your property from you to the person that's buying it. The most common, a warranty deed, and it exactly like the name implies, you're warrantying it. You're saying this property is clear from anything that I haven't disclosed to you. So I'm warrantying it against further claims. A quitclaim deed, usually used in divorce cases, somewhere where you've already got an interest in the property. So we split up. I don't want anything to do with your property anymore. I'm going to deed my interest, quitclaim my interest over to you. Trustee's deed, where you're deeding it into a trust or out of a trust. And then, of course, after recording, anything that transfers ownership, the county assessor gets those documents, and they update their records, and they are doing the verification to say, oh, John Smith does own this property. They can sell that. Or, John Smith really doesn't own that property, and we're not going to update those records showing that. Just some other, there are too many different document types to list. The most common, deeds of trust, when you take out a loan against the property. Deed of release, you've paid off said loan. What's not listed, trustee's deed under sale. Should you not make your payments on your deed of trust, they will foreclose on your property, which is done with a trustee's deed under sale. Easements, that's where you grant utility companies and other people, without actually transferring ownership of it, the right to use your strip of property. Don't build fences on it, they will tear them down. And they will not replace them. Beneficiary deeds, those are deeds that transfer property at the time of death. It keeps the property out of probate. They do have to be recorded prior to death to be valid. They can be changed at any time. They remain in the name of the owner until such time as they pass. So you can sell it, you can do anything you want to do, and your beneficiaries have no say in it until you're gone. Like I said, there are a lot of other things. Court orders can be filed, judgments, liens, affidavits, anything that affects property. So the deed fraud problem. A criminal comes in and fraudulently attempts to transfer the ownership of a property that he does not own, which is also known as title fraud, deed theft, quitclaim fraud, property theft. You would think that would be harder to do. And in some cases, I say that it is, because you're having to create the document, you're having to go in front of a notary and prove that you are the person that is signing this document. So you're going to have fake ID, or you can have a fraudulent notary who is in on the scheme with you. And that's, like I said earlier, we rely heavily on the notary to authenticate who is signing that document. So here's a case that happened in Cook County, Illinois.
By law, it is a line anyone can stand in and a fee anyone can pay. $40 is all it takes to get a deed or other document officially recorded in Cook County. A simple perk of open government openly abused by serious scammers.
I think they call them, financial parasites.
She was new to her office as recorder of deeds when Karen Yarborough says she first spotted the trouble.
To steal a home, all you have to do is doctor some paperwork up, then Photoshop it, bring it to the recorder's office, record it, voila, you own a home.
Con artists exploiting a system that relies on the honesty of those who use it, recording forged documents in order to steal a home outright. Sound far-fetched?
This is a kind of crime that I never imagined that could happen.
It did to Chicago Treasurer Stephanie Neely until it happened to her.
And I get this call, I'm like, what do you mean someone has changed the name on my deed? What do you mean? How do they do that?
In her case, a stranger recorded a fraudulent deed, waited until she was at work, and then changed the lock.
They want to physically be in your house, because once they're there, it's very difficult to get them out.
Precisely what happened to this Chicago woman.
This individual had paperwork that was Xerox that showed the deed was in his name.
She asked us to conceal her identity because
You're in constant fear that they will try something next, because believe it or not, they did come back 3 days later.
one man connected to her case was arrested and convicted. As the recorder's office continued to field fake documents,
I decided that I couldn't sit idly by and watch this happen.
Yarborough brought in this man,
They believe that the government created artificial duplicates of all of us.
an expert on sovereign citizens, the extreme anti-government movement often behind this crime.
They believe they can completely ignore our government and do whatever they want to do with impunity.
Pete Cabbage calls it paper terrorism and teaches the red flags, like the punctuation sovereigns add in the middle of names, the refusal to use mainstream addresses or zip codes, and how they employ lengthy, arcane terms. The flurry of documents they file may be fake, but their threat is real.
They're bullies. They're brazen. They think that nothing can touch them.
A lot of times they'll come in and overwhelm our frontline staff. It may be 20 of them will come in.
Yarborough has a catchy comparison she uses to get a non-believer's attention. In Illinois, it is easier to steal a home than it is to steal a car.
It's fraud and, taking people's homes.
Scary. Who's at risk? Everyone that owns property. But they do tend to target properties without mortgages, because, of course, if you have a lien against the property, when you go to borrow against it, they're going to see that first one. They're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. They like to target vacant land, vacant houses, because you might not go by there all the time. You might not notice that there's a for sale or for rent sign on your property. You might not notice that somebody has now taken up residence in your property. The owners, or the neighbors next door might not realize that, oh, this person's not supposed to be over here. Investment properties, out-of-town owners, like I said, somebody that's not paying attention and watching their property. Methods of deed fraud, we talked about that a little bit. Forgery and impersonation, notary fraud. family members, grandma's not really tracking that well, but we're going to take her down here, over here, and have her sign her property over to us. Fraudulent LLC transfers. Signs to watch for. Did you not get your property tax statement? That could be lost in the mail, but it's easy enough to check. It could be because somebody has transferred your property and now that tax statement's going somewhere else. Notices regarding unfamiliar loans. Don't just throw them in the trash and say, well, that really wasn't supposed to come to me. They're just soliciting. Follow up, double check, make sure there isn't a loan taken out in your name. Unexpected foreclosure notices. Again, foreclosure is when you don't make your loan payments. They're going to foreclose on the house. Those people already have their money. They're not interested. Incorrect credit report entries. Your property listed for rent or sale. If you start getting people coming to the house asking about your property, they're wanting to buy it. How much you want to sell this for? Well, why do you think I want to sell my property? Just follow up, be diligent, periodically review the county records. Like I said, address strange mail, protect your identity, monitor credit reports, sign up for property fraud notification. At least 100 of the 114 counties have some sort of property fraud notification in place. If you've got property at the lake, they have it. Check with wherever your property is located, see if there's a system in place for you. So we have one here. It's free. We don't charge anything for it. It provides an email notification of any new document filed matching your monitored criteria. It will tell you within 24 hours that something has been reported. I'm working with IS to get that faster. I want it to check it a little bit sooner. So this is our web page. Property fraud notification. You click on it. It'll take you to this first page. The very first time someone visits, very important. First step is hit that request account, create account. Request access, create account. Sorry. If you don't do that first, it's not going to take you anywhere. So you have to hit that, and then it will take you where you can put in all of your pertinent information, your name. You'll create a password, put your email in, and submit that. Once you submit it, it's going to tell you to check your email. You will almost immediately get an email saying that you've created your account. You can now go back to that first page and put in your email and the password that you just created. It allows you to monitor up to 5 different names or variations of the same. It's important. If your property is owned by the Sunnyland Trust, guess what? Put Sunnyland Trust, because if somebody's going to steal your property, that's how they're going to deed it. You can put any name that you think might be associated with your land. And you can do up to 5 different names per email. So what happens if something's recorded? You will get a notification alert that says, hey, on this day, this document, it'll tell you what the document number is. It'll tell you what kind of a document it was. It will tell you what name it matched. And if you are aware of it, if you took out a loan recently or paid off your loan and you know that the deed of release or something was going to be filed, then you can just ignore it. If your name is John Smith, something common, chances are you're going to get an email notification that does not pertain to you. Follow up, check with us. I had a gentleman email me on a Friday evening. He had gotten an alert, and I was able to go on and find out what property it was, and able to notify him, this is not your property. It does not pertain to you, but he was going to cancel a trip that he had scheduled because he was going to have to follow up on Monday to make sure that somebody wasn't stealing his property. So always verify. You can call, you can go on our website, but we would much rather have you call and check. The notification only works for documents filed after you sign up. So if you signed up today and something was filed yesterday, you're not going to know about it unless you check the records yourself. Notifications are county specific. I'm not going to be able to tell you if something was filed in Camden County. And again, if you receive a notification, check, call us. We would be more than happy to look it up for you It might be John Adam and his wife's name is Sue, but your wife's name is Sally. So you know this isn't your property. You're okay. You can check the legal description to make sure it's not yours. We can help you verify that. If you do have a document that's filed fraudulently, you can immediately take action. You contact the prosecutor, you contact your law enforcement agencies, you let them know that there's been a fraudulent document filed against your property so that they can start investigating. You contact your banks. There is a process in statute for fraudulent documents that you can request a review from a judge. It's trying to expedite the process so that you can try and unravel this sooner. If they do determine it is fraud and the court issues a document as such stating that the document filed was fraudulent, we record that as at no cost to you. That happened recently. You know, you think about these happening in larger counties and larger areas, and they have. St. Louis City, you know, there was a news report, well, the recorder gave this person's property away. Well, no, we can't. We can't. We recorded the document, yes, but we don't give your property away. But it happened in a small county. And the realtor never spoke to the person selling the property in person. It was all done through emails and text messages. They never spoke. They never laid eyes on this person. It went all the way. The document actually got recorded. They had gotten to the point where they were getting ready to transfer the money, a wire transfer, and the closer realized that an address or something was the same for the seller and the buyer and started digging. But that was the only thing that kept that money. But the deed actually got filed of record, and they had to go through the court system to get it removed. Just some other topics of interest, and I do have a flyer. High-priced deed copies, those come through. They usually target if you've just recently bought a property. We can get you a copy of your property for $87. You need to have one of these on hand. It's a good idea. Throw those in the trash if you've got relatives that get those. They make them look like they're legitimate, like they're coming from the government. And they're legitimate. They're going to get you a copy. They're going to pay us $2 and they're going to charge you $87. So the real ID that's already passed, well, the deadline has passed, but you do have to have a certified copy of your marriage license. If you're going to get the real ID, you have to show how you went from your birth name. This mainly affects women, of course, how you got from your birth name to who you are now. So if you've been married 10 times and you took a different name each time, you have to have all of that documentation. And some people don't remember where they got that. So that's fun. Veterans, kind of like the high-priced deed offers, you'll have somebody that offers to file their DD-214 form or get them a copy of it. We provide this service for free. Please don't you or your relatives pay money to have somebody do that for them. And then, of course, there's my contact information. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Cheryl, I'm curious, how often do you see this in Greene County? How often have you seen it?
The cases that we've seen, and not very many. I mean, there's been a couple, and like I said, one where they get grandma to go sign, and then find out a family member comes in and says, well, and we did have a sovereign that he did deed property. It wasn't a relative, and then he actually sued us because we were called to testify to the fact that we recorded his fraudulent document. And so then he filed a lawsuit against us. And so then I had to pay an attorney to defend me against, but those are the only two that I can, there was one, it was a divorce case. And after they got the quitclaim deed signed, I guess they owned several properties together. And after the wife signed the quitclaim, the ex-husband went and slipped another property legal in there into the quitclaim document and then recorded it, thereby deeding himself the two properties instead of one. So, And actually, the wife figured it out because she went by this property and somebody was building a home on it.
Oh.
Yeah. So
So whatever, do you know the resolution to that?
I do not. I do not know what happened. I mean, I know that they caught him, but I don't know what the resolution was for the poor people that he sold the property to that were building the house. So, yeah. We are trying to address legislatively what can be done, but it's hard because, like I said, we're depending on the notary, and without requiring that every seller come and make contact with us personally to tell us that the deed's not, that this is something I'm a party to and I want to do. We're kind of at our wits' end. Is how do we do this? How do we mitigate it without completely stopping the recording process? So, any ideas? Let me know. Yeah.
So basically, once you get the notification, the deal's already done.
The-
So that contract of spending money for attorney, just all this madness. Any idea what that costs to get out of it?
I do not. I do not. And like I said, if you can, the first step I think would be contact law enforcement. We're working on ways to expedite that process and to have steps in place to help the parties that are affected, because it shouldn't impact you, to get out of it. But right now, that is where it is. Yes. So, an attorney at least to file the paperwork with the judge. I don't. I said we're all trying to find a solution because we've realized that it's a problem. Legislators, recorders, all, it's an issue and it's not going to go away. So.
And what's your thoughts on those things you hear advertised on the radio about
Deed lock,
theft protection? What makes the deal?
they're doing the same thing that we're doing for free, because they can't freeze you might be able to freeze your account, like a bank account, but you can't freeze your property. So what they're doing is the same thing we're offering, is they're monitoring. I think what you're paying for, though, is maybe the legal services to get out of it if somebody does file something against you. Yeah. Yes?
I haven't paid attention the last time I went in the recorder's office, but you guys video who comes in and records documents, or
We do have we have cameras out front.
I was thinking if
Mhm.
it did go to court, that
Yep, we do have cameras running in the front office. And we also, we take a receipt, but if they come in and they, like the gentleman that ended up suing us, his name was on the deed. We knew who it was, and his name was also on the receipt, and so we knew who had come in to record it. But I mean, that does, if they're paying cash and, but yes, we do have video surveillance. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you, and if you want a pamphlet, please